Your attention, please. Kindly take a moment to locate your nearest fire exit. In the unlikely event of an evacuation, please follow the directions of the CCD staff and proceed directly outside. Please do not attempt to re-enter the building unless told that it is safe to do so. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing on day 3 of Fyuz? No. I didn't wear these shoes and Spanx for this. How are we doing on day 3? Yay! That's the spirit. That's the spirit. So today we're going to be talking about thank you very, very much, Telco AI. And we're going to be answering 5 questions. Question number 1, why? Why would you deploy Telco AI? What are your objectives, your KPIs? The second question we're going to be answering today in the panels and keynotes is what? How are you going to identify your data sources? How are you going to clean them? How are you going to regulate them? And all that fun stuff. Number 3, which? That's a very important question. Which models are you going to use? And I'm going to give you a lot of alphabet soup. LLM, SLM, VLM, and the list goes on. Is it open source you're going to use? Is it closed source? How are you going to train it? We're going to answer it in the which question. Question number 4, how? How are you going to design your compute infrastructure? Are you going to host it on site? Will it meet your needs in the cloud? And the last question we're going to answer is where? How are you going to be choosing the implementation environment and control on premises or in the cloud to control your flexibility and scalability? So I've been in telecom for almost a quarter of the century. And probably many of you started in 2G, 3G. Raise your hand who started in 2G. Yeah, I see. Yes, Stefan. Who started in 3G? 1G. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yes, I'm right. 3G. 4G. I see nodes in the audience. 5G, we need fresh talent to help us with 5G. So who remembers this thing called SON? I need more hands in the audience. Remember, again, I didn't wear the shoes for you not to engage with me. Who remembers SON? Yes, many of you in the audience. So predictive SON, predictive AI is nothing new in telco. What is new is generative AI. And we need to figure out how we're going to manage those workloads in real time. And that is why I'm very, 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 very excited to introduce our first speaker of the day, Chris Penrose from NVIDIA. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to introduce Chris in a minute. I'm sorry, Chris. No, we're going to go back because we need to thank our sponsors. I'm sorry, dear sponsors, because without them, this conference would have not been possible. So the food, this wonderful building, the parties, it's all because of them. So we're very grateful as a nonprofit for their support. Our media partners, amazing media partners that have been covering this event pre, at, and post-event. Without them, this conference wouldn't have been possible. And I also want to thank another group of people, all of you. All of you, because without you coming to Fyuz, without you watching the videos after the event, it wouldn't have been possible. And that's why if you want to talk about Fyuz, X and LinkedIn, use Fyuz24 hashtag, tag me, tag Christian, tag the whole team, and tell us about your experience. And now, as I build it up, the excitement, I am super excited to welcome our first speaker of the day, Chris Penrose from NVIDIA. Welcome, Chris.
All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Thanks so much for being here. My name is Chris Penrose. I work at NVIDIA as the global head of all business development at NVIDIA for the telco vertical. I spent 30 years of my career in the telcos, actually at AT&T. So I've got a long history working on the telco side, and I've now come over to figure out how we can bring all these amazing technologies from an AI perspective to the telcos to help transform operations, help drive monetization, help build next generation networks. And so today I'm going to walk you through, from NVIDIA's perspective, what's happening in the telco space. And I'm very excited because telco isn't historically the fastest adopter of technologies, but believe it or not, when we get to generative AI, telcos are leaning in a big way and are one of the leading verticals around the world. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's happening and why this is such a great opportunity. So what are we seeing out there? From a telco perspective, we see three major initiatives that are happening right now when it comes to adopting AI and generative AI. The first is actually, how can we put generative AI in place inside of the operations to drive major cost transformation and improved customer experiences, better employee productivity. So we're going to talk a little bit more in the upcoming slides about how we see that being applied today and where we see the real results beginning to happen in that space and where that's going for the future. The second place that we're seeing a lot of interest and excitement right now is this idea around sovereign AI and how nations can begin to build the right infrastructure to be able to support the AI revolution and the Gen AI revolution that's happening. And what's great is that telcos, in many cases, are leaning forward to be the ones to help put that infrastructure into their nations. So we'll talk about how we're seeing that play out. And then finally, we're going to talk about the network itself and how is AI and RAN coming together to create a whole new way in which these technologies are going to work together to create new experiences for customers, to create more efficiency, to create better economics for the telcos. So let's unplug each one of these, or unpack each one of these in a little more detail. What you're looking up here is how we see large language models and generative AI being applied inside of telco operations. And you can see what's amazing about this is that you've got every part of the telco has the opportunity to be transformed with generative AI. The leading areas that we see most telcos leaning into today are around the customer experience. It's also around network operations and employee productivity being the top places where we see this technology being deployed. But what you can see around the horn is that every part of the company has an opportunity to be transformed. And whether it's working with creating entirely new marketing campaigns, working with supply chain, actually helping finance be able to create the annual reports and support their leaders on calls. There's all sorts of amazing applications that are taking place. And what's exciting is that we're moving now out of the era of kind of POCs into real production, and we're seeing some incredible results. I'll throw out just a couple. We've seen a really amazing application of taking incoming billing calls. Amdocs created an incredible offering, put it into the market, and what they were able to show is literally a 60% reduction in average handle time on the call, as well as a 49% improvement in customer satisfaction with the handling of that call. So this is perfect, right? We're not only seeing happier customers, but we're also seeing major efficiency gains that can be brought to bear. And we're seeing this play out more and more as we go to scale with these applications. The other thing we're seeing here is that how can we help telcos with AI unlock new monetization opportunities? And we're going to talk in more detail about this idea of creating these AI factories and being able to bring GPU as a service, training as a service, inferencing as a service, and AI applications into the marketplace. You're also seeing every single industry, every single business is wanting to apply AI for their own operations, just like the telcos are trying to do. And telcos have this incredible relationship with almost every business that exists in their countries. So again, opportunities to go into each individual industry. And then we've got an entirely new set of capabilities that are coming out. If you think about the idea where many telcos have obviously had chatbots for a long time, now putting a face and an avatar on the front side of that to create a new and better improved experience using generative AI underneath to make it more lifelike. These are really amazing applications that we're seeing being deployed across the board. And when telcos actually deploy services for themselves, they can take these and bring them into the market. So if telcos are working on a generative AI application for their own customer experience, they've got an opportunity to take that out into the marketplace as an offering as well. So let's talk a little bit about also the trends we're seeing when it comes to what's happening with regard to inferencing, okay? Today, you're seeing a lot of investment going in, and over the last several years, going in to create these large clusters of compute to be able to train these large foundation models out there. But the biggest opportunity of all is what we're calling, is what you need to do after your model's been trained. Now, every time a question is asked, that is inferencing. And inferencing is going to be a massive scale opportunity for the industry, and in every single application is going to be embedding generative AI inside of their application. So the number of inferencing requests we see skyrocketing, and so it's really important for telcos to begin to think about, in light of that, how should we be thinking about how we can support not only that traffic, but also the opportunity to potentially engage in the monetization of that opportunity. So AI factories has been this concept that we've been talking about how can we work to bring AI infrastructure into the countries around the world to support this amazing opportunity that's in front of us around generative AI. No country wants to be left behind. This is such a transformational technology. And so what you're seeing up here on the board is kind of where we see the opportunities for who needs this compute and why they need the compute. It starts off with the startups, believe it or not. You've got these companies out there that want to be able to build either the next large language model or a generative AI application that is going to transform a particular industry or particular opportunity. So startups are looking for this compute infrastructure, and they're not just looking for small clusters. The first things that happen when you're a startup is you hire on, maybe a couple smart people, and then you need your compute to be able to build up your applications. So startups are a great opportunity that we see around the world, and the opportunity to really lean in and provide them with the sovereign infrastructure they need. The second thing is nations. Governments themselves want to be able to apply generative AI and AI services to run the nation more effectively, to provide better citizen services. And so there's a great opportunity, and most telcos have a great relationship with the government. They serve the government, and they're a trusted partner to the government. So government is a huge opportunity. The third area, as I mentioned earlier, are the enterprises and the businesses themselves. Every single industry is going to want to be able to apply generative AI to their business. How can we provide the right infrastructure for every one of them to be able to do that and do it in a sovereign and secure and sustainable way? And then finally, the most exciting thing and we're talking about is the infrastructure that we're talking about putting in for AI factories to be able to support generative AI can also be used to support the telco RAN network of the future. And I'm going to unpack that in a little more details on some upcoming slides. So 5G, we talked about all the Gs, and I lived through all of them. I was raising my hand backstage. But 5G was always looking for the killer app. I'm here to tell you that I think AI and generative AI is the killer app for this generation. And why do I believe that? It's because more and more things are being connected. It can be everything from XR, AR glasses, it can be cameras, it can be drones, cars, robotics. All these different things are being connected. The next thing is people want to be able to interact with the data that is being generated from those different connected endpoints and be able to candidly talk to these endpoints to be able to get real-time information off of them. And so you're going to see more and more traffic being generated coming off of these various endpoints that are being connected beyond the smartphones and being applied with generative AI to create amazing outcomes. So we think this is really an amazing opportunity, but what's lacked in the past is this opportunity to bring both the network and AI together. And what we've created at NVIDIA is a unified platform that allows to be able to bring together all the different traffic that we're used to around voice, data, video, as well as AI into a single platform to be able to serve the customers and the businesses of our countries, okay? So there's a lot that goes on here. Why are we doing this? And really, it's really to drive a better performance of the RAN, but also to create a better return on investment. And we want to make sure that we're creating the right infrastructure to maximize the efficiency of what we actually put the biggest investments that we do in the telco space into these networks. How do we make it the most efficient way to deploy capital on a go-forward basis? So this concept that we are talking about, we've kind of dubbed it AI RAN, okay? And think about AI RAN in kind of two places. You've got AI with RAN, and this is how are we actually using AI in the network itself to, or alongside the network to be able to create, a better use of the capital investment. So today we design these telco networks for the peak hour. But that means they sit idle for many, many hours during the day or highly underutilized. Now we can actually deploy. When we're not using it for the telco network, we can redeploy that compute asset to now do AI and generative AI applications, so we can keep this performing all the time. So running AI alongside RAN is a whole different dynamic, and it makes much higher utilization of the asset. The other piece is that we're seeing AI for RAN, and this is how can we apply AI into the RAN network itself to drive better performance, to drive better energy efficiency, better spectral efficiency, and get more out of this asset. So we made a big announcement a few weeks ago with T-Mobile and Ericsson and Nokia. I'm going to run a quick little video so you can see the vision for where we're going with AI RAN.
AI will revolutionize telecommunications, and telecommunications will revolutionize AI. Future networks will carry voice, data, video, and AI traffic, and they'll be orchestrated and optimized by AI. Recognizing this opportunity, T-Mobile, a world leader in 5G, and NVIDIA will partner with Ericsson and Nokia to transform networks into AI computing infrastructure. These industry leaders are exploring a groundbreaking solution called AI RAN by leveraging the capabilities of NVIDIA AI Aerial. AI RAN will support voice, data, video, and AI applications, like state-of-the-art large language and vision language models, spatial computing, industrial digital twin simulation, robot fleet orchestration, and interactive digital avatars. With AI RAN, T-Mobile will be able to deliver computing closer to their customers, unlocking low latency, secure, and localized AI services seamlessly integrated with their network infrastructure. This means that T-Mobile customers can engage with interactive digital humans for a variety of use cases.
Hey James, can you tell me more about AI RAN?
AI RAN enhances mobile user experiences by boosting network performance and creates economic opportunities for mobile operators with new AI services.
And because AI and RAN are powered by a unified infrastructure, the service can scale to millions of T-Mobile subscribers at once. AI RAN will enable new AI algorithms to unlock the full potential of wireless networks. These AI algorithms would be rapidly developed with software-defined RAN, trained on AI data centers, and fine-tuned with physically accurate digital twins. This will lead to dramatic improvements in spectral and energy efficiencies. In this example, significant gains are achieved using a new deep reinforcement learning-based vRAN scheduler. AI RAN, powered by NVIDIA AI Aerial, will revolutionize the telecommunications industry, unlocking new revenue opportunities in AI and offering superior performance, capital efficiency, and energy efficiency, paving the way to AI-powered networks.
Yeah, so really exciting stuff. And we've been working on this for a long, long time. And NVIDIA, we're all about creating the tools and the capabilities to enable the ecosystem to build amazing things. And so we can't do this without partners. And obviously having Nokia and Ericsson working with us as the primary provider of these services to the telcos around the world is super exciting. Having T-Mobile being able to drive this charge alongside us, we're very excited about what this means for the industry. But believe it or not, just this morning, another announcement came out. And T-Mobile wasn't the first on this journey. It was actually SoftBank. We've been working with SoftBank around this concept of AI RAN for the last 18 months. And they've gone live into the network to be able to create an environment where you can run radio access network on the same compute as you're doing generative AI. And these are some of the stats that SoftBank put out this morning about what they're seeing. They believe that they're estimating that every dollar that gets put into capital investment, we can see a $5 return in revenue. Okay, this is a big deal. They've also came up with a statistic say all in they're looking at a 219% ROI on the investment of going down this type of infrastructure that can be used for the RAN and be used to generate revenue on the AI front. The other really exciting thing is they've been doing some initial testing on the latest generation platform from NVIDIA and are estimating a 40% improvement in power efficiency by also deploying this type of technology. So we're seeing some really early great signs that give us wonderful confidence about where this is going to go for the future. And we did that also in conjunction. I'll give a shout out to Fujitsu and Red Hat. They were also part of making that particular trial such a success. And so, at NVIDIA, we really do believe this. We want to collaborate, to be able to drive innovation and help change the industry. And our CEO said, well, open collaboration and partnership are the keys to driving progress and innovation. No one can do this alone. We want to make sure that we are working closely with each and every one of you to unlock the opportunities for AI and generative AI for your businesses, whether it's driving operational efficiencies, whether it's driving new monetization, or whether it's helping you create next generation networks. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here today, and have a wonderful rest of the conference.
Thank you, Chris. This was a really fantastic presentation. And we answered some questions about AI, hows and which models and compute. I'm also very excited about our next panel because There are some amazing humans on that panel. Let me welcome them. My buddies from Starent and Marjorie, who used to be CTO for Singtel. You know how we always say there's not enough women in this industry? If you see them, you can be them. Technical leadership. And Sami from Vayavi, when we were in Indonesia, he told me to eat the cake. So always remember to eat the cake, because that cake was absolutely fantastic. So now this wonderful, amazing panel, and Andrew, how can I forget you? Woo, exactly, yeah, woo! Let's talk about some automation.
Well, greetings. This last day of Fyuz Dublin 2024, it's been amazing. I am Marjorie Shue, and I did not bring rain gear. I brought my sunscreen to Dublin, so thank you for delivering on amazing weather. It is my privilege to moderate this esteemed panel on automation and telecom. And a few of us met last night for dinner, and our first course was the alphabet soup of FIDI, MPLS, the list goes on, RCS, IMS, MPLS, et cetera, across our collective decades of service. So similarly, as I look in the rearview mirror at my long career at Verizon and then as former CTO at Singtel, telcos have been automating forever, right? So whether it's predictive analytics or self-healing networks, self-optimizing networks, we're always focused on improving network quality, reliability, customer experience, and of course, costs and rote work. So upon returning from Singapore, I pivoted to working with startups as chief revenue officer and advisor, and so really Telecom Infra Project is the perfect confluence of my experiences, so I'm delighted to be here this morning. So while telcos prepare for AGI as they're cleaning up their massive data lakes and prioritizing their use cases and models and algorithms and spinning up SMRs, small modular nuclear reactors, to run RAN on AI, we thought we'd take the opportunity with this amazing group, the posse of CTOs, to discuss some common sense approaches to automation that we can do here and now. So I'll let each of these gentlemen introduce themselves. Why don't we start with Azur? Please tell us about yourself, but also, while my former company was always focused on best network, each of the MNOs in the US have kind of taken different North Star Open RAN approaches. So best network versus SMO RIC for agility and differentiation, innovator, early adopter, and maybe just best marketing campaign. In your opinion, what is a good framework for the telcos to think about automation? Because all of us, the telcos, need to drive value for our share owners.
Thank you very much, Marjorie, and thank you for the invitation to be on this panel. I'm Azhar Saeed. I'm the CTO for NG Voice. We do cloud-native IMS stack, and automation is one of the key components of that particular stack. But before I get into what we do, to get back to the question of what Marjorie asked, my previous experience has been with Red Hat, and I've talked to providers across the globe on automation specifically, and actually I've seen them how they implement that. So if we take the overall, telco infrastructure, you can actually look at automation in different layers. You can look at automation of the infrastructure layer, which is, essentially your hardware provisioning, your data center, your network. And people have actually talked about the topic of autonomous infrastructure, autonomous networks for many, many times in the past. But everybody focuses on this minute area of, okay, how do I do routing and updates automatically? How do I do, run some Ansible or some playbooks automatically. But if you look at that particular layered cake model, you have to look at it in the sense of, hey, I'm automating the infrastructure in terms of provisioning, management. Then I'm on top of that, then I'm automating the actual application layer, which is where the network functions reside, which is where the different applications reside. Then I'm automating on top of that a service layer, and then I'm automating the user component of it, the user layer. So you should look at automation in these 4 different layers, and if you then parse that particular problem, you're able to actually then holistically implement automation across the entire network, across the entire infrastructure, and probably in your organization. Some of the examples that I can give you in terms of the conversations I've had, I mean, automation is really a culture too inside the organization, right? It's not something that you can, it's hard to implement it top down. It's also very hard, I think one of the organizations, one of the big, large telcos in North America actually had huge success in letting small automation teams grow in their organization from different parts to automate their particular body of work, whether it is configuration management, whether it is troubleshooting, whether it is just looking at some KPIs, or whether it is automated deployment. They started to do that in each of their divisions, and ultimately they came together to build an overall automation strategy and a culture across the organization. So I've seen those things happen. Relating that back to, for example, what I do today now in my new job as the CTO of NG Voice, what we've done is not only leverage the available automation tools that are there to automate the deployment stuff, where I can now deploy an entire IMS stack under 10 minutes, right? Distributed deployment model I'm talking about, right? And because it's all containerized, it's all in Kubernetes, I can really, really do that much faster. But not only that, I can create a full-blown closed-loop automation environment that allows me to monitor the metrics, the KPIs, and actually based on thresholds and using something like CADA, right? Allow me to auto-scale, manage the replica sets of my application on the infrastructure. Allow me to actually scale up and scale down based on the policy and the parameters that I've defined. So policy plays a key role in terms of what I do in the application automation piece. And because of this cloud native model, I'm able to actually very easily build it up and then tear it down on the fly as demand comes in and goes. And we all know, I mean, I think you said it, predictive analytics has been around. Once you clear this closed loop model, you can gather data and go there. So we'll go to the next round of questions at that time. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Azhar. Next, we'll go to Sami. As you introduce yourself and Viavi, I'd welcome your thoughts also on how to address the telcos who clearly are not a monolith, and if there are other verticals perhaps that are in greater need of automated solutions.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me here. My name is Sami Amani. I'm Chief Technology Officer of Viavi Solutions. And we are involved a lot in the testing and making sure that things are real, not just hype, but what is the reality, what is the maturity level. And we in Viavi would have been involved actually in Open RAN from day one when it's called XRAN, right? Before even Open RAN. And we were one of the first test companies to be involved in this whole evolution of where we're gonna see the openness and what is the reality in there, how we can test that, how can we take it to the next level. And we've been through this journey, and I will argue right now we are in, Open RAN Advanced. We have reached the maturity that we are seeing right now, and there is a lot of opportunity out there for testing it, and we are, have recently opened our Valor Lab, which is funded by NTIA, to actually do fully automated testing, but not just testing in terms of the lab testing, but giving the opportunities to all the players, either the vendors or operators, to actually come in and see how you can unlock some of the capabilities, some of the opportunities that O-RAN can provide. Now, one of the fascinating things that we saw, that the first actually people that came to our lab were actually private networks, right, that are trying to actually use the Open RAN to see this is a capability that I can actually build in some of these new verticals, either it's in industry revolution or port authorities or these other verticals that are seeing an opportunity in Open RAN. but they don't have the expertise to actually go in and, how I'm going to bring these ecosystems together, how I can test it. So automation here plays a very important role. I mean, we are looking not only in terms of, just testing all the different capabilities of Open RAN, but enabling this kind of a virtual environment, this concept of digital twin. I think NVIDIA was talking about this right now, that you will be able to, virtually build, the environment that you want to test on and automatically create all of these different use cases that you want to see, can I scale it up? Can I actually test these kind of new features? So I think automation plays a very important role for testing these kind of applications. And AI also is going to play a role for that because, data plays the most important part if you want. I think about, Viavi, as we are the kind of the flight simulators for the network, right? So the more you bring in data, the more you bring in these use cases and use AI to generate the most extreme scenarios that you didn't see in the lab and bringing more to life. That's where you're going to get more confidence that technology is taking the right step in maturity, and you can actually take it more and start monetizing it.
So just challenging you for a minute. So we love simulations, we love lab testing, we bring things into DevOps, kick the tires. We all know telcos like to test and test and test. But then ultimately you go to the field.
Yes.
And it doesn't all go as planned.
Right.
Any thoughts as far as how Valor or any of your test suite can help?
Absolutely. Actually, that's a very good point. We are traditionally going in, so you develop, you go and test, you go in the lab, verify, and then you go into field and find problems that you didn't see. So bringing the field into the lab, it's a very important thing. And this is one of the concepts of this digital twin. And also the partnership, I think we're working with the Accord Lab, with the Orchid Lab, AT&T and other operators to actually bring the field into the lab so that you can see examples. And that's where automation comes in, right? Bring in the data from the field so that you can actually test realistic scenarios before you go in and put it out there.
Great, thank you, Sami. So Andrew, please tell us about yourself and MITRE, the not-for-profit solving whole-of-nation challenges that a lot of people don't actually know about. What should telcos be automating that they're not already?
Sure. So first, Sami, I have to say that I can never land the plane in a flight simulator, so that's a challenge for me. But yeah, we need to fly more. So my name is Andrew Teese, and I'm the head of 5G Next G for the MITRE Corporation. Like Marjorie said, we're a nonprofit organization. We operate 6 federally funded research and development centers on behalf of the U.S. government. Most of what we do is working to do exactly what you said, which is to solve whole-of-nation problems. One of the things that we've been looking at for a long time is if you do a crude CAGR, right, from spectrum, from 2G through 5G, roughly every G needs at least 80+% more spectrum than the prior G. And so, another hat that I wear as a side gig is I'm the chair of the Spectrum Working Group in the Next G Alliance, which is the North American effort to try to define 6G. And I think that crude calculation is still going to hold true. And so despite FR1, FR2, and now kind of the emergence of FR3, what we're starting to see is, I think, an inflection point between the value of spectrum at auction and the cost of relocating the incumbent system sitting inside that spectrum. And what people don't like operators don't like anything other than cleared licensed spectrum. The U.S. has more unlicensed spectrum than any other country in the world, and we've done a great job leveraging, Wi-Fi in that, but I think we can do more. But the place where, I think we need to really take a much harder look is in the spectrum sharing space. Because if even with the opening up of FR3, and not to over-densify the network, like I said, I don't think we can clear and license enough spectrum, right, to be competitive. And so the reality is that I think operators are going to have to share that spectrum. And we have an example in the United States with CBRS. It took 10 years from start to finish to get CBRS out the door. For those of you that are like me, at least now or former 3GPP wonks, that's at least 6 releases in 3GPP. So the technology evolved 6 times, right, in getting to where we're at in CBRS today. And so we think we can do better. And the kind of things that we've been looking at are, whether or not we can use the network as a sensor, right? Integrated sensing and communications is kind of been, topic of late. It's certainly something that we think, we can take quite a bit of advantage of. There are vendors on the floor here, Cohere, right? That, and Ronnie was supposed to be here today, but unfortunately couldn't be, right? That have quite a bit of experience in the sensing space. We've been able to use traditional G-Node Bs as sensors, right, to try to figure out if we can detect an incumbent radio system using machine learning to make sure that we can figure out what that is without having knowledge a priori, to then try to maneuver around the commercial communications in that space. And it does work, right? So even just with traditional proprietary 5G, you can actually get some things done. But what we have seen is if you can do more inside the radio system, you can do quite a bit better, right? And so this is where we've always been, and I've been investing in O-RAN in the RIC for a while. And so using a RAN intelligent controller, right, to be able to enable some of that sensing, but then more importantly, to be able to take advantage of some of the layer 1, layer 2 controls that you can get access to, right, through a RIC, to do things like PRB blanking, beam muting, beam steering, and hopefully we can start to expose other layer 1, layer 2 controls to help us figure out how we can tighten up and make even more efficient, right, commercial spectrum sharing with what in our case is often federal incumbent radio systems. And those radio systems are interesting, right? The ones that most people talk about are things like, what OUSD R&E did, right, with the Hill Air Force Base experiment with 5G and airborne radar systems. But we also have things like radio astronomy, where they're not transmitting, they're just receiving. And so that's a very different model of how you do spectrum sharing with systems like that versus ones where you might be able to use machine learning to detect them. And so I think using machine learning, right, to be able to detect the interferer, to sense it, but then using artificial intelligence to figure out how to get around it, because the conditions are always going to be changing, right? It's not static. And we saw this with the great work that Paul Tillman from DARPA did in the Spectrum Collaboration Challenge, where they were using expert engines and some teams were using AI to figure out how to do collaborative spectrum sharing. And so that was the beginning of what I saw back in Mobile World Congress Los Angeles before they moved it to Las Vegas. So I think there's a whole lot of value in kind of moving in that direction.
All right, well, that's exciting. Azar, Sami, any thoughts on this challenge from Andrew?
Yeah, let me just add one point before I go to Andrew's comment on Sami. I think one of the things that he mentioned was, bringing field to the lab. I think it's a very important construct, especially when you're building software that is going to be deployed in the field, that you actually have a way to verify, before you send live traffic through it. One of the ways, for example, what we've done in the space is once you deploy an application, you automatically trigger some tests, like live calls, simulate those live calls through the system to ensure that everything's okay, both from a control plane perspective as well as from a data plane perspective. And that's really important, in addition to, of course, what he was talking about, which is actually creating a digital twin and being able to actually test it hands-on and things like that, especially when it comes to hardware. And actually, then that's where I'll relate to Andrew's comment in a moment. So that's really important in terms of how you actually build those network functions and how do you actually deploy them, and then automate the process of testing, using, and then now coming back to Andrew's point, I think Andrew had some very interesting points. Automating spectrum management is really key in terms of driving efficiencies in the next G or current G, right? I mean, I think one comment that struck me, Andrew, when you said was 80% more. Without doing proper spectrum management, and then in order to do spectrum management, you would have to think about exactly what is the, many different considerations, right? You need to get full telemetry from the system. You need to get full environmental attributes into the system. Then you need to actually gather all of that data and then do the modeling, do the analysis that's required to be far more efficient. I think one of the colleagues who's not on the panel today, Ronnie, he was going to actually talk about some of that topic, so I'm actually going to represent him briefly to say one of the things he mentioned was, hey, what they're doing is exactly looking at both the scheduler and, on the RAN side, and if they have access to the E2 interface, they could potentially create more efficiency in that. So I think that's one of the keys. That's also an automation capability on the spectrum radio management structure. So I think it still fits very well into the original framework that I defined in terms of, infrastructure, application. In this particular case, the application happens to be RAN and spectrum management, and in my case, it would be voice and IMS and RTP engine and decoding and blah blah blah, right? And then service layer, and then the user layer from a user experience perspective. Sama?
No, I agree, and I think Andrew points. It's a very good point. I think, for a while, since the beginning of ORAN discussions, we've been always working about, is it going to work, right? Our open interface is going to work, right? And we've been spending a lot of time on that. And I can argue today we are past this point, right? We are working with all the big vendors, the small vendors. I can tell you right now, because we're working with them on testing these things in their own lab. Everybody's moving now beyond that. So we are at the stage now, as Andrew was talking about, how we can now look at the challenges that we can now unlock in the network. How can we monetize? I mean, we spend a lot of money building all of this, how we can start monetizing it. I mean, spectrum efficiency and spectrum sharing is one of the things, because we're spending a lot of money on these things, and
That's
you need to actually get. Right? And I argue that, now we need to look at the RIC. We need to look at how we build apps, how we enable innovation, right? Because I think this is the next step, right? We are making it programmable, but I always argue that the best app out there for this is the one that we don't know yet. We need to enable the platform for innovation. And I think these kind of, the discussion of bringing the RIC either non-real time or real time or near real time, these are now the next step of discussion and how we can enable that, right? And, the digital twin is an example of, bringing, these kind of platform capabilities, operators with vendors, with, equipment, us bringing in the data, and open up this platform. TIP looking at that, and maybe TIP becomes the community, enabler for building these platforms for everybody to come in and innovate, looking at the spectrum sharing problem. How can we actually do it? How we can innovate in that? So I think this is key, right? And definitely we are at this, again, repeated Open RAN advanced stage. Right.
Yeah, some of us took a walking tour of Dublin on Sunday afternoon to look at some of the core infrastructure that's been deployed, the small cells throughout Dublin. And somebody was joking that the killer app for 5G is the speed test. So we definitely need to do better as mobile operators to think about applications and user experience. So my question now is, there's all this excitement over AGI, and every speaker, every panel has been talking about it. But in your opinion, is there an obvious inflection point from conventional automation to, fully embracing AGI?
Yeah, I mean, so coming back to spectrum sharing is my example. You can do things from an automation perspective, but you're kind of expecting the spectrum environment to be static, right? Or at least easily predictable within the parameters of whatever your automation solution is. And I just don't think that's realistic, right? Not in an environment, like even the example that I gave earlier about doing spectrum sharing with airborne radar systems. The military is never going to share flight plans of airborne radar systems with commercial mobile network operators. So being able to figure out with machine learning that's something that you're seeing, and being able to, you can't predict it, but you need to be very quickly able to react to it, right? And I think that's just one example. I think we're talking now about spectrum sharing between commercial mobile broadband and federal incumbent radio systems, but I think we're going to end up seeing spectrum sharing between multiple types of commercial radio systems, right? The National Science Foundation has John Chapin's work at the National Radio Dynamic Zones looking at this problem, where it's not just about commercial and federal, it's about everything and everything. And you can't do that with an automated solution with expert engines. And so I think being able to use machine learning to characterize the RF environment, and then being able to use AGI to actually learn from that and make decisions and pull the human out of the loop, and to make it so that you're using the near real-time RIC to get the performance that you need, is the only way to get this done.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to take that point and actually expand a little bit more. One of the conversations we started last year was around this autonomous infra, right? What does autonomous infra really mean? It is not just looking at managing or provisioning the infrastructure, but it's also actually managing the entire environment operations, as well as it's also looking at the user and the experience and the service management. Yesterday, I think there was a very interesting breakout on quality of experience. Ultimately, what's the goal of automation? If you actually look at it, it's to improve user experience. It's to improve the operations, provide better cost savings, and drive better efficiency in the infrastructure, right? Those are the things. Now, you can apply these 4 principles at different contexts. Spectrum is the most, it's the costliest thing in a telco infrastructure, for telco mobile infrastructure, right? So apply automation there to improve spectral efficiency. Infrastructure management and operations is another very expensive thing. Apply automation there to actually improve those, build better TCOs into the model, build better operations capability. Network functions and operations, all of those things can be done. But through this, if you have right observability in the entire infrastructure, you can actually glean and gather a lot of data. And when you glean and gather a lot of data, that helps you in terms of building more predictive and more AI-driven, operations model. And that, I believe, is key. I think there's some work that's being done in different places, in different companies around what can you do. For example, what we do today is bring, some of that metrics, KPIs, logs, events into, the system, and then build insights through that to be able to drive, changes. What is it? You measure voice through mean opinion score. When you measure voice through mean opinion score, where is that going? Where is that changing? What's a predictive, mean opinion score based on the infrastructure characteristics? That implies not just transport layer, but also the RAN layer, but also the environmental factors and so on and so forth. So I think there is a whole host of complex parameters that you can actually look to, build into, and then leverage the power of AI to actually drive it and make that better.
I'll actually take a different perspective from AI.
Are we going to disagree because you wanted to make it spicy?
I actually want to.
Yes,
I'm not going to
please.
disagree, but I'm actually take you to a different domain. One of the things that Viavi does beyond the testing is also we provide tools for deploying the network, right? For all operators, going in and deploying that. And I know you're going to disagree on this, but one of the things that if you ask a lot of the CTOs for a lot of opcos right now with the experience on 5G and we're going next with Open RAN and what we're going to do next and so on, this whole idea that the expertise in the workforce is a little bit disappearing, right? And this is a problem, right? There are different ways of solving them, and I agree we can go back to, education and all of that. But in reality, this is a key problem. I mean, the network is becoming more complex. I mean, we talk about spectrum and deploying, how we're going to use spectrum sharing and what are the new radios of the future is going to do that. I mean, we can tell you from experience, deploying these radios are becoming more and more challenging, right? And it's not anymore just something you can, set up in the lab and then send it to, the field and install it. It's becoming site-specific. It's becoming technology-specific.
Exactly.
It's a very complex things. And, there are expertise in the field now that are retiring and they're not being replaced, right? There where AI, I believe, also plays a very important role, because I think we need to start looking at the data that we have today and how we can bring the next generation of tools and automation tools and the next generation of workforce that are enabled to manage this kind of complexity with an assisted AI, kind of deployment scenarios, helping, educating and, training force quickly and faster and bringing all this complexity into a much easier way to manage that. It's not just automation. I think, automation plays a role, but you need AI. You need this kind of, even some of the Gen AI requirements for some of these things. So I know we can disagree on some of the items, but, and we can have different ways of looking at that, but I still believe it's a very important topic.
Yes, please.
I don't think it's that we disagree. It's that I think we need to do what you're talking about while at the same time trying to go back to the fundamentals to make sure that, while we have talent disappearing in the workforce, certainly from a, deep understanding of the basics of RF, we need to go fix that, right? So that it doesn't just disappear completely while we're working on trying to, mitigate, the problem in the meantime with how you're looking at things. And so, it all starts in K through 12, and we're not going to get into this because we don't have time, and this isn't the panel for workforce development. But we don't disagree. It's just I think we need to attack the problem from both ends.
Let's agree on that.
Well, I think for all leaders in our industry, talent development, talent capturing all that collective knowledge has to be top of mind as we think about succession planning, and then attracting and retaining the young talent. I was talking with another CTO yesterday, and he was saying what a challenge it is to recruit and develop talent to come to our industry. So, well, with that, I thank you all so much for your collective wisdom and your good cheer, and it wasn't as controversial as you promised, Andrew, so anyway, we tried. So thank you all for your attention, and please join me to thank these gentlemen for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a fantastic discussion. Eat the cake. Eat the cake. So the next panel is going to be a representation from mobile operators talking about AI in the networks. And with the greatest pleasure, let me welcome on stage our next panel. How about a nice round of applause? Woohoo!
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining Transforming Future Networks with AI. As we all know here in the room, every organization across all sectors are looking at AI, Gen AI, and large language models to create new opportunities and new value plays, be it efficiencies, experience, or new capabilities that simply weren't possible before. And they're looking to the telco networks to support them with this demand. Of course, the telco industry is in a very unique position. Not only are they looking at leveraging AI within their own organizations to drive the efficiencies, but it can also leverage its infrastructure for new AI services and offer AI structures to its B2B customers. So they're looking to configure the network, essentially. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to discuss this, the AI implementation strategies of the leading operators. I'm Lisa Cloney. I'm a director in AI and data for Deloitte here in Dublin. And I work largely with TMT clients, so technology, media, and telecommunications, supporting them with their AI strategies, data modernization, Gen AI use cases, and of course, trustworthy AI. I'm joined by Cayetano Carabaco from Telefonica, based in Madrid, Desmond Chung from Indice, and finally, Laurent, yourself from Orange, based in Paris. Would you like to introduce yourself, Cayetano?
Yes, good morning. I'm Cayetano Carbajo. I'm leading core and transport in Telefonica Corporate Technical Unit, 30 years in the industry, 30 years in Telefonica. And working in several aspects. One of them is the approach of AI to the network in different angles, as we will see later on.
My name is Desmond Chung. I'm the CTO of Indosec Audio Hutchison. Indosec is a company in Indonesia. I've been Indonesian. I'm originally from Hong Kong. I've been in Indonesia since 2015. It's a big country, a lot of things happening. I'm so happy here today to introduce to you what's happening there in Indonesia.
Hello, everybody. Very happy to be with you today. My name is Laurent Le Boucher. I'm Group CTO within Orange, and AI for network for AI is one of my favorite topics today.
Thank you very much, Laurent. Brings me to my next question. Kitano, we have discussed this during the week, in particular networks for AI and AI for networks. It's a perspective, I suppose, that many people aren't aware of, and it's very unique to the telco industry. It's important that we all understand the difference. So would you like to bring us through those two perspectives?
Yes, for sure. I think when we talk about AI for network, is applying AI for automating and for making our network operation more efficient. Okay, network usually are delivering a lot of data, so we should be able to do a lot of things with AI. AI and data is something that is correlating well, so we should be able to automate and to do things in a more efficient way using AI. This is AI for network, and we have there many use cases. Network for AI is a different thing, and it's more specific to our industry. In what sense? Well, we will evolve or adapt our network to delivering the best possible service for AI. AI will request things that maybe other usages of our network will not request. Will request higher uplink traffic, or will request prioritization of traffic, or will request lower latency and then edge location for doing the inference in real time. The way we will change our network for answering these challenges, this is what we call network for AI.
Thank you. Which brings me on, as you referred to, it's about the design and implementation of network infrastructures to support AI applications. And networks for AI is really about ensuring that the network can handle those specific requirements that you mentioned, the AI workloads, super low latency, high data throughput. Would any of the panel, maybe Laurent, would you maybe help us to explain what this means for telecommunications as they look to ensure an AI-capable network, and what the implications are as we see expectations really move towards an on-demand networks fit for AI kind of world?
Thank you, Nisa. First of all, first remark, I would say that we are really at the beginning of something new. Maybe in the last Fyuz event last year and the year before, I mean, generative AI was not so much important. So really, we need to recognize and we need to be extremely humble that there is a new revolution. We are part of it. As Cayetano said, it's already driving some very interesting use cases on the efficiency of network operations. But there is something interesting as well, which is how we can address the new AI workloads and how we can support it, how we can help our customers to get the best experience for those workloads. What does that mean? I would like you maybe to think of in the future, so it's more imagination experience, because it's not that here yet, but it will come very soon. Just think of ChatGPT. As it is used today, it's mostly text-based, mostly. So it's very similar to search, traditional search. You don't see a lot of impact on the network yet. But when you start to think of what would be the next experience when each one of us will wear glasses, smart glasses, maybe like the one that Meta is working on. Meta is already providing some of those glasses, but not with the real XR experience yet. It will come. It will come probably soon. In that case, what you need is to be able to capture not only text, but voice and video in real time. So it's upstream traffic, not only a traffic that you can buffer, but traffic that you need to inference, and inference in real time. And that's new. So part of it, of that inference will be done in the cloud. Part of it will be done on the device. We need to recognize that there is a huge progress on the capacity of the devices. But maybe it's not enough. And maybe there will be also some requirements to do something in between. and to orchestrate between the big LLMs in the cloud, the SLM potentially also on the device, but there might be also different LLM, different SLM, and we need to orchestrate that. We need to be able to cope with the upstream traffic during the conversation, so it needs to be not a permanent slice, but it needs to be a dynamic slice, so we need to implement dynamic slicing, for sure. And potentially, as Cayetano explained, edge in the network could become something important. And not only for latency, also because there are some regulation aspects that we need to be aware of. Like, I take Europe as an example. We have GDPR, but we also have some safety requirements regarding AI in the AI Act. We'll come back on that later. And there is also some sovereignty requirements in some of the countries. So having that also close also to the data, close to the use case, could be also one option. But it needs also to be worked with not each telco one by one, but as an industry ecosystem all together.
Thank you. We noted earlier the various modalities. It's not just text anymore. We've moved long past that when it comes to AI and Gen AI. Organizations across every sector are looking for more, looking to leverage AI. And of course, you know, telecom operators and organizations are aware of this, the power and the electricity and the demand that's going to be needed to support this. Can you tell me, Laurent, how you see telecom operators addressing sustainability as the demand increases?
So I think, speaking about sustainability, right to point that it's a big concern. It's a huge concern because the explosion of use cases will drive a lot of a need for investing in GPUs, a need also for energy. One of the main issues today is to get the power. So to get the power at the right place. So we cannot do that on, we need to right size depending on the use case. Some use case you will need, because it's absolutely relevant, you will need a big LLM, foundational model. In some other use case, you will need a smaller model, which will be more cost effective, but at the same time, much less CO2 intensive. So I think we need to be able to navigate between these different kind of solutions. Also, as an operator, we are in a good position to help our customers to select the best solution, provide them also with the infrastructure to do that in the most efficient way. And I think also in our own internal usage, we need to be clever. As an example, in Orange, what we do today, we give to all employees the capacity to use LLMs for their own work. And we have more than 40,000 people using LLMs every day. They use that through a tool which gives them for each transaction the cost of the transaction, but also the CO2 impact. The CO2 impact, everyone is aware of the CO2 impact in real time. And I think it's important.
I agree. Cayetano.
Yes, I think talking about sustainability, it is important as well for delivering our connectivity to the AI services. Not all the services, not all the applications will need the same requirement from the network. And providing high requirement to all the use cases is not effective, it's not sustainable. So having prioritization or having special services with a special treatment will be needed. What is my point? If I need to have, I don't know, 1 gigabit connectivity with 1 millisecond latency for a specific use case, and I try to deliver the same level of service to all my customers, this will increase not only the consumption, but it will exhaust the traffic, and nobody will have a proper experience. So we need to be clever as well with the usage of the network. As Laurent says, we have to select the right LLM and the right infra for the right application. In connectivity, we could apply the same thing. So I think with the appearance of AI use cases, this will be more and more relevant.
Thank you. Desmond, thank you for joining us today on the stage. I know this is your first Fyuz experience and coming to Dublin as well. It's great to have you here. Indonesia is a very different circumstance than here in Europe. You know, it's a different structure, and the network system is very unique. What are the fundamental changes required with networks and infrastructure to support AI in Indonesia? And what are the key partnerships that you see are required to support that?
Well, I think indeed, Indonesia is a very different country from Europe, from the US. Although it's equally far away from both continents, it's very different. I think for those who don't understand Indonesian, Indonesian is the fourth largest population in the world, 275 million people. The scale is big. So in our case, we have about 100 million customers, big scale, massive number of transactions every day. And however, the output is super low, $3 to $4 per customers. So in the future, when we talk about we don't have the 5G yet, or we don't have the 5G license yet. Our 5G today is running on 4G. The 5G license will come in the next 1 or 2 years. However, AI the demand is high. In Indosec, we already launched our GPU as service. We built our AI data center with NVIDIA GPU. We just launched a few months ago. So we have a very interesting situation here, maybe a little unique, is AI is faster. 5G is slower. It's quite different from other parts of the world, I believe. So I think in our case is we like to explore, we like to think harder to see whether we can build a network infrastructure to at least a good part of it to support AI. And then we can use the same piece of silicon, we use the same infrastructure for the 5G business in the future. So same thing, I think we echo the same observation, the AI require all these low latency network, super high capacity transmission network at the same time. So because of inference is one of the, I think, use case for putting the edge computing power in the edge of the networks. All these things we come together is we need to build our network infrastructure to advance it for AI, and we can monitorize. And then later on, we can easily plug in the 5G data, 5G usage to share the same platform. So this is our ambition, and I think I look forward to learn more from this forum, from all of you, because we don't know everything. We need all these people here, all the expertise to help us, how we can build this network accordingly.
Thanks, Desmond. I think, just to add, when we're looking at networks and AI for networks and networks for AI, we're all aware there's an increased reliance on digital infrastructure, which makes telecom networks prime targets for cyber attacks. Just to move on to, I suppose, the cybersecurity measures, how are AI-powered solutions supporting cybersecurity, protecting customer data, and ensuring the resilience of these critical networks? Because they are a prime target. And as Desmond and I were discussing in the green room earlier, it's how we potentially use AI to stay ahead. Any member of the panel like to take that one? Cayetano?
Yes, for sure. I think AI is a powerful tool for protecting our network. Collecting all the data of the different attack that we have in the network every day and reacting fast is something that we can do with AI. For sure, we are doing this already without not so many AI techniques, but these techniques will be enhanced with artificial intelligence without any doubt. This is one of the first applications that all our experts think when applying AI to the network. I mean, how to protect better the network without any doubt, yes.
I think it becomes really a very, very important topics, because if you look at the threats today, the cyber attacks, most of them, they are powered by AI. I mean, they are, it's really impressive. I think there was a few weeks ago, a report or an announcement made by BT, public announcement, saying that, I don't remember exactly the figure, but you can find it very easily, but the number of attacks powered by AI every second is enormous. It's really enormous. And the threat is increasing dramatically. So both on the B2B, but also on the B2C, we have to take actions. On Orange side, we have our Orange Cyber Defense division. They are extremely focused on how we can use AI in order to do threat discovery and mitigation in real time, using the network. So it's a very strong focus. It's not something which is outside of Orange. It's part of Orange, leveraging the data that we have on the network in order to protect our customers. But also on the consumer side, we've just announced a new offer in France to protect all our consumers, customers, cyber protection solution on their smartphone and at home, where they can, at the same time, know when there is a threat. They can be notified when there is a threat, and they can also take some actions. So it's a very easy, and it's a subscription model. And we did it a few months ago, and really the traction is very good.
That's fantastic. Desmond?
Yeah, I think certainly cyber security is super important, not only to our company, but also to many other companies. So we have a B2B business together. So we are partnering. We need good partnership. We don't know how we can tackle. So we partner with, for example, with Cisco. We're also partnering with MasterCard and other people to try to tackle this problem. I think internally, we also need to do a lot of work. Most of the cyber attack are about ransomware, so encrypt your hard disk and so on. So we did the clean room or something so that we can do the backup better. A lot of things are happening. I think it's also come to the situation that, in the past, or in one thing we have been doing is like doing penetration tests. It's happening all the time, the IT industry been doing. But we are also establishing our own, hacking capabilities. We form our team to hack our network or hacking, as a hacker. So all this strategy are changing. I think the whole world is changing. So using AI to do hacking on our own to run faster the real AI attack is important. It's one of the thought process we have and one of the strategy we are going after. So a lot of things I think we don't know. I think there are a lot of opportunity to help us to not only our company, but also the whole, industry, B2B business. There's a lot of requirement there in Indonesia. I welcome all these experts here to help us.
Thank you. I'm not surprised, Laurent, with the high adoption of that, because it is everybody's interest. How do we protect ourselves? And having that as an option on Orange sounds like something that'll become the norm across every operator. Just to move back to what you mentioned earlier about the EU AI Act, obviously it It looks to protect citizens from the risks of AI and promote the development of safe, trusted AI systems. And while it doesn't intend to probably change the telco's AI strategy, it will create more work and costs to meet the new regulation requirements for safety standards. Laurent, what are the implications of the AI adoption in the telco sector do you see in the EU, and how can operators leverage this as an opportunity and to drive innovation?
Thank you, Lisa. I think you're right to stress the importance of regulation. Regulation because, as we know, in EU, there are different sets of regulations that we need to take into account, including, of course, the EU AI Act, which is recent but extremely important. So I think, first of all, I would consider that we, as operators, working with regulation, interacting with regulators, is almost our daily job. I mean, it's something that which is part of our DNA because we have to. It's part of our business to do that and to comply. So I think the first thing is we don't perceive that only as a constraint, but also as an opportunity, because it's also a way for us to be prepared and to provide the solution that cope with the requirements, which also make us in a good position on the market. So coming back to the AI Act, we will have to comply. The AI Act stresses the importance of safety for people, safety for customers, especially for what is considered as high-risk systems. And it puts a responsibility on the AI provider, but also a responsibility on the deployers. And if we, as Orange, if one of our partners that we include also in our offers deploys solutions which requires the use of LLMs or SLMs, we need to comply. We need to understand all the requirements. And that's what we are doing already today. So I think, in conclusion, I would say the AI Act is, of course, we need to comply. Of course, it will have some impact, but at the same time, also it's an opportunity. And by the way, it's not only the AI Act. I think there is a set of regulations that we need to be aware of. We talked about cybersecurity. We have also sovereignty regulation in the different European countries. We also have to deal with net neutrality. Net neutrality is important. We have the Digital Market Act, which is important because the AI ecosystem is a new ecosystem, and we want to be part of it. So we need to understand that in depth and take all the options to be in a good position in that ecosystem.
I can see Gaetano there. You're going to jump in.
I think building on top of what Laurent says, fully agree that we have a good opportunity. In general, Telco, we are very well prepared for fulfilling regulation. We are a very regulated market, and we are quite prepared for, of course, for fulfilling regulation, better than some other actors. So our role in the AI marketplace will be relevant, among other things, because the fulfillment of regulation is easy for that. Just for putting one example, privacy. In Telefónica, we define all our services with privacy by design. That means that from the beginning in the definition of the service, we have all the concern about privacy very present, and we are fulfilling all the requirements from privacy for our customer. Okay? And we can mention also security and many other aspects. So we are very well prepared for fulfilling the challenges that AI will bring from a regulatory point of view. We have to be careful with AI and will be regulated. And as Laurent says, the AI Act is clearly pointing that area. But we will be prepared for dealing with that. Other aspect is if we need any change in regulation for delivering better the AI services. When talking about AI, I think the AI services will need even more collaboration of the different elements of the chain. devices will be very relevant. The appearance of SLM will make that the devices will play an important role in the services, and there will be many actions taken in the device. We'll have loads in the edge, and we'll have load in the cloud. And we are in the middle with connectivity. Any possibility that we work better with the cooperation of the device, with the cooperation of the application developer, with all the APIs that we are defining, this will make our service better for the customer with better experience and also more efficient. So we should push toward this collaboration to be enabled by regulation rather than limited.
Actually, with a lot of the organizations that Deloitte work with, we were recently speaking with FSI and public sector, and again, they've taken the exact same approach, looking at regulation and the EU AI Act as an opportunity and to drive innovation and not to see it as a limiting factor. So Telcos is no different. As we close out today, we've spoken a lot about networks for AI, but from my natural direction, I've often worked with organizations from the opposite side, looking at how AI will enable greater efficiency within telecommunications. So things that come to mind, obviously, are like improving customer experience, enabling new services that previously weren't there. To move away from networks for AI and moving into AI for networks, can each of you maybe share with the audience a really positive, innovative experience or case study that you've seen in Orange, in Telefonica, or Industry, where your organization is leveraging AI to drive that inefficiency within your organization? Maybe one that would be interesting to the audience. Cayetano.
Sure. I think, as I said, everything that has a lot of data is a field that we can leverage AI, and in network we have a lot of data. Okay? We are doing many things, some of them piloting, some other already in production. But for instance, we are using AI for doing automatic root cause analysis. We are using Gen AI for having natural interaction with a network element. We are using it as well for testing, the testing definition for certification, as well for security. So the hardening, we are using AI for defining the cases. So in general, all the operation and testing of the network is our first area of activity, and we are implementing that. Some of these use cases already in production, some piloting yet.
Thank you. Desmond?
Yeah, I think certainly saving the network is important. But one thing I try to call out is every single saving we are looking forward is to reinvest again so that we can grow the network, grow stronger because the business opportunities are ahead. So a lot of saving will be generated from AI, but we should not just keep the saving, but we should invest so that we can grow further with this capability, because a lot of people require this capability. And training our people is so important. We need all the talent. I just learned one word about, without people, we will not have AI. But without AI, we will still have people. So we need to get our people right. The talents development is super important.
Thank you. And Laurent, with Orange?
No, I fully agree, Desmond, what you said. I think it's really about transforming the skills of our people, both internal skills, but also how we are also working with our partners. So it changed a lot of things. Because you ask also if I have maybe some experience to share and something that captured really something that changed the way we think about it within Orange. I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, when we started to use really AI at scale. It was not generative AI. It was more machine learning, predictive AI, but realizing the power of using those algorithms, for instance, to do root cause analysis. One of the use cases was about the quality of voice. How can you address defaults on the mobile, understand where it come from. It could come from the core, it could come from transport problems. It could be maybe also on the radio. If it's on the radio, it's not everywhere in the country. It could be in some places, different places in the country. And you need to understand very rapidly where it comes from. Traditionally, it took us a few hours to do that. When we started to deploy those algorithms, we reduce it to 2 or 3 minutes. So now we can do that. In 2 or 3 minutes, we can find where is the problem. This is really the power. And it was only the beginning. There was no generative AI. It was traditional machine learning. So when you start to realize that, you think, okay, that's a completely new way of working. And as Desmond said, everyone in the company working on networks, network planning, network engineer, network operations, people on the field are impacted. They are impacted at scale. So upskilling, reskilling is extremely important.
They're empowered, essentially.
Yep.
And the customer, the end customer, reaps the benefits. But I do think it's very important what you were saying, Desmond, about the investment. It's really important to invest in Deloitte as well. We've really supported our employees with an AI assistant called Paired here in Europe, and obviously in the US they have Sidekick. But again, it's about enabling and empowering your workforce to do more with AI and Gen AI. Thank you very much for coming to Dublin. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if you were, but Cayetano is back on stage later today. This is your 6th stage performance for Fyuz this year. So he's definitely a pro. Laurent, thank you so much for joining us. Desmond, fantastic to hear about Indonesia. And best of luck on your next stage later on this afternoon.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. What an insightful panel. And if you want to join our Telco AI group, and if you're a TIP member, if you're considering, you can visit the website and you can be working with all these mobile operators in TIP, bringing, testing, validating your solutions. So Telco AI, if you're not a member, if you're a member, get involved. The next panel, gonna talk about, remember at the beginning we were talking about the 5 aspects. So the next panel is gonna talk about where and how. It's your infrastructure. Let me welcome our panelists on stage. Let's give them a nice, big round of applause. No, 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 remember? Yes, yes.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this panel on evolving infrastructure and AI in telecoms. My name is Lizzie Hayashida. I am the Director of NDRC Early Stage Supports at Dogpatch Labs, and I am thrilled to be joined by an amazing panelist on stage today. Today, the goal of the panel is really to explore telecom infrastructure, how telecom infrastructure is evolving to meet the unique demands of AI. We'll examine new architectures, workload distribution, and sustainability strategies, highlighting the challenges and opportunities faced by telcos worldwide. Today I'm joined by Cristina Rodriguez from Intel, Michael Clegg from Supermicro, and Gilles Garcia from AMD. I thought we'd kick it off by just doing a quick round of intros, and then we'll jump into questions. So Cristina, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Lizzie. I'm Cristina Rodriguez. I own the Communication Solutions Group for Intel. Part of that, the RAN, of course, and the virtualization and openness of the RAN.
Perfect.
Michael Clegg from Supermicro. At Supermicro, what we're known for is a very broad project range and sort of workload optimized solutions. So what I focus on is really applying that to the telecom industry, operating across our customers and partners and really across the whole product range and all the sets of applications. So be our sort of advocate for telecommunications.
Thank you, Lizzie, for the introduction. So I'm Gilles Garcia, and I'm the lead for the telco infrastructure, wired and wireless at AMD.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. So we'll jump into the questions. I thought we might start with the next generation of telecom compute architecture. So Gilles, maybe we'll start with you. So as telecoms transition to AI-heavy workloads, how are compute architectures evolving to handle both deterministic telecom processes and probabilistic AI models? And are there new architectural frameworks that are poised to reshape the telecom computing?
Thank you, Lizzie. So first of all, let's put the context of what we're talking about here. There is still the big generative AI that has been talked in previous panels that are selling into the data center. Here we are really talking about telco AI, that means how the infrastructure and how the edge and far edge for the telco can really handle AI. And so one size does not fit all, meaning that you are probably hearing a lot about GPUs, CPUs, AI embedded, AI PCs, and every of those aspects has the position and the role to play in the telco AI in network infrastructure. So if we are talking about the new telco models, we are starting to see those models being, first of all, deployed from the training into the data center, but they will be pushed then into the edge data center and probably in some far edge application when we're talking about RAN or AI to help on the RAN, either with RIC or with the radio or with the DUCU AI maturity that will occur very soon. So that's what we are seeing today occurring into the telco AI, is moving those workloads out of the main data center and having them more specifics and more probably around inference into the edge and far edge applications or far edge locations.
Yeah, very interesting. Michael, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, what I would add, the way I always think about it, and I think maybe this is one of the things at the forum here, we tend to use AI as the single term. But, we sort of saw it in Chris's presentation earlier on. Every part of the telco organization will be touched by AI. So I always like to think of it as, AI for the telco, which is sort of the enterprise applications, the traditional layer business like any other. AI in the telco, which we just mentioned over here in terms of using AI to make the network more effective, and then AI by the telco, where the telco can offer different services out. So I think when we look at architectures, there will be different use cases for each of them and different implementations for each of them. Where is the optimum place to put the compute? I also think we will see that AI being put in all types of compute as well. Every CPU, every GPU is going to be AI capable as well. So we will have this capability spread throughout the network. What we will work on as we go forward is how do we optimize the network to basically run the workload in the right place on the right product.
I'll add something, something to it. So maybe I'm stating the obvious, but if we're talking about AI in the network and AI in the RAN, or AI in the context of the RAN, there's one thing that has to happen, and is the virtualization of the network and the disaggregation of hardware and software. In order for us to move at a higher speed of innovation, at the speed of software innovation, we have to have that programmability of the network, and we have to bring that disaggregation. And then the second thing is the RAN obviously have very demanding requirements for performance, as far as performance per watt. So you have to have into account what are the elements in the way you build the network, what are the elements and the capabilities of the silicon underpinning that network that will allow to keep up with that performance per watt and that power consumption at the sites and everywhere in the network.
Yeah, and actually on that, the role of silicon in telecom AI. So what is the current state of silicon readiness for AI workloads? Beyond GPUs, which other accelerators are becoming more critical in supporting AI workloads for telecom specifically?
Yeah, obviously, but one of my favorite questions that I immediately went into it in the previous question. I couldn't wait. But no, I think it's a very important question and a very important aspect of what we're trying to do. we have to, AI, when we talk about AI, there's AI in different ways, right? And we're talking, we tend immediately go into the large language models and the big, the large models that we're running in data centers. But when you talk about the RAN, we're going to have to run models at the edge, at the sites, and that has a specific requirements, specific characteristics. So maybe for RAN workloads, we don't need large models. We need smaller models that can be distributed across the network. And then on top of that, you take into account again what I was mentioning before, the importance of the power consumption. We're talking about distributed sites, VDUs, that have very demanding power requirements. So you need capabilities that allow you to do inferencing and even training the small models again in the sites. And this is what we're trying, and I'll speak from the Intel point of view. I have a blog that I just wrote that you guys can access to it, but I'm talking there about Intel Xeon 6, the next generation or the newest generation that we are bringing, and that has built-in AI capabilities. So you can run your inference models right there on the site without having to add any additional component. And we're very, very happy with that and very encouraged by what we can do. Pretty much what you need to do, whatever you need to do today in AI, we believe that we have a CPU that can address those needs in the network today, which is fantastic because then you can start deploying what you need for the network.
Wow.
So let me get next, since I'm AMD, so AMD and Intel on the same panel, that's always fun to have. So I agree with a lot of the things that Christina said around the GPUs will probably not have a good fit into the edge and far edge, mainly due to the power consumption. So we are starting to see emerging SLMs that will be probably more fitting the telco in the RAN and in the edge. But from a technology perspective, I think what is important to notice is you cannot have CPUs everywhere neither. So on the radio, for example, on the radio, AI will have a critical role to play. We are expecting to see that on the 5G advance and even later on 6G or whatever it is, the next evolution, we will start to see AI capabilities to have more spectrum efficiency, driving power management as well at the radio level directly. And for that, you will need to have special AI capabilities, special AI engine. And AMD on that, we have already working with large tier ones that are shipping, by the way, their radios with these AI capabilities. And you will see them adding new AI capabilities in the near futures without having to change the radio. At the same time, you will need to have also potentially accelerators because we have also a strong CPU portfolios, but nevertheless, at the end, CPUs will not be the right fit for all the models that will have to be run in the telco environment. And so you will need to have some AI capabilities that will be potentially accelerators, that will be potentially doing sensing for the IoT, and being able to merge not only the RAN aspect of it with all the baseband AI models, but being able to run sensing, video, and additional applications that the telco would like to monetize in their networks. So I think all for all, there is already silicon capabilities available today, mature, that are deployed and that will start to deploy because we are just scratching the surface of AI in the telco. But we are very excited by this AI, not only by the data center AI, but by all the AI embedded, which will be edge or far edge capabilities.
Great.
Yeah, so for us, we build a lot of the compute infrastructure, and we have CPUs from all our colleagues over here. So that's very good. Again, making that difference between training and inferencing. Training, you're going to have the very large monolithic data center orientated GPU intensive product. But inferencing is very workload specific, and the size of the workload and the compute required varies very much depending on the application. And that we could potentially see more distributed throughout the network. As I was saying earlier, I think what we will see is every even general purpose CPU is going to have a lot of AI built inside it. So you don't always need a dedicated AI processor. Every processor is going to have some AI capability going forward. I do want to pick up one thing Christina said is, virtualization. Intel really drove virtualization in the industry, and with 5G being a cloud-native network, in a way we're very fortunate because going into the AI phase, you're really treating standard hardware. You're running on standard compute, standard GPUs, and you're overlaying these AI applications on that. So of course a lot of that work has been done in 5G, and a little slower. We finally get into the fully virtualized VRAM, and we're in a much better position to run these mixed workloads on the compute infrastructure as it's distributed throughout the network.
Great, and I guess just on that, so how close do you think we are to achieving a unified AI platform across hybrid infrastructure?
So I don't know that there will be a unified platform, or that there even needs to be. And again, when we get back to power optimization, we get back to workload specifics. And it's again this, I think this is where the industry is going to have to go. Operators hate lock-in. They don't want to now be tied to a single silicon vendor everywhere because that's what all this AI software runs on. So do we get a stage where we can have different AI workloads with an abstraction layer that can really run on any compute platform that's underneath it and take the advantage of that? We are working on companies that are doing a lot of composable networks. When you do inferencing, you really want your entire model to run on the same processor, ideally, to fit it in from a memory point of view. And so we are working with companies that can essentially compose this workload needs 10 GPUs, this workload needs 20 GPUs, this workload can just run on a CPU. And as we can cluster the CPUs together, I do think we will get to this case where we build dynamic compute on the fly, specific on the workload, and again, riding on a lot of the DevOps and the containerization we've heard about before, the provisioning on the fly, which also plays into later on, we talk about later, the resiliency and the redundancy in the network as well.
Perfect. I'd like to move on to sustainability. I'm curious, given the energy-intensive nature of AI, how is the telecom industry balancing sustainability goals with the large-scale AI deployment needs? And are you seeing innovations that are making a big impact there? Maybe Christina, I'll ask you.
Sure, yes. Yeah, it goes back a little bit again to what we can do to keep the power consumption low. And we know this, our industry is pretty heavy in power consumption, and we're doing everything possible to reduce that power consumption and keep our sustainability goals in mind. There's a couple of things. We go back to what capabilities we can have in the network and the architecture of the network to reduce the power, the footprint, the energy footprint we have, and that goes with and without AI. Again, if we looking at the AI, which potentially could increase that power consumption, there are things that we can do, and I go back to if we don't need to add additional components to the network that will consume more energy, so that's great, right? And that's why we are so focused at Intel on creating that capabilities within the CPU that can run all your workload without having to add new components. And then from that, just in general, the energy consumption, we can also apply AI, and we're doing this. We did actually work with AT&T, and using our capabilities on managing the core frequency through AI, and you see the footprint reduce on the DU. So there's things that you can do using capabilities from the silicon, from the network optimization, applying AI to keep that energy consumption as low as possible.
Great, yeah, Gilles.
So I think that, and I'm in agreement with Christina for the CPU aspect. There is a lot of power techniques that exist already today in the technology that we have and in the one that we just announced that allow to power down, put in sleep mode, reduce all of these. But this is only related to the CU-DU aspect of it. if you are talking about other aspects of the telco networks on the RAN, again, radio is a big component of the power consumption into the networks. So I think that it's important as well to focus on this aspect. And so AMD, as part of this AI strategy, we have already in the devices that is populating in a lot of radios, power techniques and power hooks that AI will be able to use, for example, from the RIC or from the SMO, in order to characterize and put in sleep mode only some RF ports or a portion of the radios, that, or even reduce the PA capabilities in order to really improve the power efficiency, but still keeping the capability with the AI engine to be able to select what do you want to do and why. Because I think that at the end, this is the telco that will decide how they want to have their models running and tuning their networks. And so this is how they will be able to sustain their capabilities. They will get access to much more data from the networks because now those data will be available to them from the user experience, user mobility. And so they will be really able to have models that will fit and handle those data to decide where and what to do those power or those sustainability actions into the networks. On top of that, of course, the next generation or the architectures of the CPUs are evolving. The architectures of the AI accelerators are evolving as well to reduce less and less power consumption. And where I will disagree with Christina is that I do not believe that CPUs are one size for all the RAN applications. Even with CPUs integrating accelerators, there are some specificities for accelerations that will not be able to be handled by CPUs around the IoTs, around those type of things that will need to have special accelerations for video encoding capabilities and AI around those videos or encoding, transcoding capabilities. But again, I think that in general, we agree that GPU is not the answer for all. And so they are really, like Michael mentioned, a place where telco need to think, what do I need? What is my performance, cost performance KPIs that I need where into my networks?
Just I wanna mention something to you here. So yes, you need the acceleration, the AI acceleration. The key here is that if you're capable of putting that as part of your CPU, and then what you have is a common platform, and there is something about having a common platform around the entire network where all the programmers are used to with a programmable interface, and then you have all that capability integrated in the CPU. It's very powerful. Very powerful in the sense of what you can do with a lower power consumption. But yeah, you need that built in. That's what we are doing. You need that built in. You need that acceleration. And if you can do that built in the way we're doing it, again, super beneficial and super powerful with a lower power footprint.
So from my side, I think we also need to look at power consumption or sustainability from a holistic point of view. So just take it away from the chips up to the system for a moment. So, one of the questions is there a net gain? So with AI, there's the processing that's required and the power consumption to process the AI. And is that offset by the gains that I get from the AI itself? And we will definitely see, as Jill mentioned, a huge amount of initiative with AI to improve the overall power consumption of the network, to be far more optimal in the use of transceivers and devices in radio power, compute power. So optimizing that throughout, and I think AI is going to be a big benefit to that. Time will tell whether that neutralizes the effect of doing the power. But in terms of the AI itself, we work a lot on this. We really led the market in liquid cooling. So particularly when we move more towards C-WAN type applications and you move some of the compute back into edge of the cloud or a data center versus out on the far edge, you can now start to pull some of your compute together. You can shut down a lot of your compute when the network is less idle. We can liquid cool those computers so you can afford to have larger servers, more powerful servers, but then apply more. We do see that although the power required per CPU or GPU is going up, at this stage, it may actually be that the throughput is going up faster than the power. So if you measure, dollar per power and dollar per MUP or whatever you want to use as your compute measure, although the dollar per power is going up, you're getting more work done. So your overall power required to execute this, a constant workload is the same. Of course, workloads keep going up as well. But if you look at a constant workload, it doesn't necessarily mean that a more power-hungry CPU is actually worse for power consumption. It may actually be better in terms of the workload. And then, as NVIDIA was talking about this morning, is there's some initiatives. Okay, the network doesn't run at a constant rate all the time. So once you've created these data centers or clusters of compute, how do I make use of idle time, right? Obviously, one option is just turn it off and don't consume the power, but maybe I run other workloads on that. And that's a significant saving because you're sharing that memory, you're sharing that network connections, and that drives overall power consumption down. So holistically, I think it's still out on whether we get a net gain, but I'm fairly positive that overall this isn't as bad as we appear if you compare the system to the component.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
If I can just add something, since
Yeah.
I need to disagree or agree with Christina. So one of the key differences at AMD that we're seeing for the AI into the telco networks is we don't need to have CPUs everywhere, neither. Because there are places where you will not have CPUs. Gateways, frontal gateways, and all those other boxes, backhaul, that will need to have AI capabilities as well, will not require a CPU. And that's where you need to have some specialized accelerator, being able to have AI capabilities so that the telco and the vendors of the telco being able to have extreme capabilities, low power, but still capable to have a lot of tops. For example, you are talking about devices that can do up to 400 tops into the networks for a 40-watt capable without requiring any CPUs around. So that's the type of things that will change the way telco can really deploy the AI into their networks and really fit those small language models or those small AI models that will help to optimize or to monetize their networks.
I think we're going to agree on something. And always, if you have Hill and me on a panel, you're always going to have this, right? Michael, you're going to have to act like it's a good thing that you're there in the middle. But the thing is, you have to use the right tool for the right job. And we're going to agree on that, right? So yes, you have to, what are you trying, you have to think, what are you trying to do? And how can you do that in the most optimized way, right? You have to be able to run the workload, and you want to do it with a lower consumption. So we agree on that, and we are at Intel. We have GPUs, we have embedded built-in capabilities. So the point, but we were talking here right now about the RAN and specifically the VDUs, the DUs that are in the cell towers and distributed. At that point, if you can run your entire workload all the way to layer 1, that's already fantastic. You run all the way to layer 1 in a programmable way, completely software-defined, completely disaggregated, and you run your entire wireless workload all the way to layer 1, right? All the way to layer 1. And then in addition to that, you can run your AI workload, everything you need in that distributed unit. Fantastic.
Yes, we can. Check mark.
Great. Well, we're coming up on time, so I just have one final question for you all. This is on open standards and open ecosystems for AI and telecom. So I'm curious, what do you all see open systems and standards, what role do you see them playing in accelerating AI adoption within telecoms? And are there any collaborative efforts underway to create a unified framework for AI workloads across heterogeneous hardware environments? Yeah, go ahead.
I can start, and I'm gonna leave you enough time for you guys, but I wanna give a shout out to TIP, because I think with the focus that TIP is putting on telco, AI in telco, I think is fantastic. One of the things that I wanna call out to all of us and the entire industry is this is a big task. AI is big. There is plenty of room for all of us here, and I think it's important that we work together, all of us in the industry, to accelerate the adoption and to evolve as fast as possible. And we don't need defragmentation. We need to work together. There's no need to to create fragmentation in the industry. And the work that again, that TIP is doing, fantastic, bringing us together, putting the focus on AI in the context of this industry.
I would add to that. I think on standardization side, we've already seen TIP, and we have the Telco AI group, which we working members of, and encourage other people to join the Telco AI team. It's a way we can influence this. We also have the AI RAN Alliance, so 2 organizations standing that. But I will also do a little bit devil's advocate. We don't want to standardize too early. This industry is incredibly immature and very much developing, and so I think it needs some time to run, and we start to see what applications are working, what are the cases, how do we implement these different workloads. So if we try to drive standardization too quickly, we may actually drive some of the innovation out of the network as well.
Very fair point. Fyuz?
Yeah, like Michael said, we are just AI, we are just scratching the surface today. Again, I heard earlier on, I think yesterday, somebody saying 2 years ago, who was aware of generative AI? But what will be the question in 2 years? Who is aware of what? So I think that this is going so fast that we need to be very humble and very open. And so AMD took the decision to have all the tools across the AI platforms to be open source. Because I think, and I agree with the tip, but I think also on the openness and the open source, having the community, bringing innovations into it and being able to bring something into it. So all the tools that we have from the GPU today to the interchain of the AI will be open source. So it's a journey, but that's the way AMD is planning to work with the ecosystem, because like you say, it's not one man shop or one company shop. It's we need to work all together and to bring these to the telco so that they can really monetize it, because at the end, telco will not adopt AI if they cannot do something which is bringing either top line revenue and or bottom line revenue to them. So I think it's important that we as an industry, we are also very open and working as a team to promote the right things at the right place, but being open. And so that's why we have endorsed the open source from the tools perspective to make sure that we can have the community helping us and working with us on that.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Hopefully everyone here learned a lot about opportunities, future opportunities, and challenges facing the industry today. Just another thank you, Christina, Michael, Gilles. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. And yeah, hope everyone out here enjoys the rest of the show. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.